everybody, Bill 1911 here. Hey, today we're going to take a look at a couple of neat guns. At first they're not going to look like they're related because they look nothing alike. We're going to start out by showing you a comparison between the AR-15 and the AR-10. Both were designed by Eugene Stoner, so let's get started. Okay, this is the AR-15. This is made by a company called Rock River. It's a good solid gun. AR-15s are AR-15s are AR-15s. It's a pattern gun. So the upper can be taken off of this, the upper receiver, okay? Now if you'll notice there's like a line that goes right across here, okay? That whole unit can be taken off and replaced with something different, okay? A lot of people like what they call a flat top upper, and that means this handle isn't there, it's cut off, okay? I rather like the handle on this because it elevates your sight a little bit. Now that has positives and negatives, but for a close-up gun out to 100 yards or so, this thing is more than serviceable. It's a terrific piece. So it has an adjustable stock on it, but what this allows me to do is bring the stock further down into my shoulder, and my head is still up where I can see the sight. So that's the only reason why I kind of like the handle up here on top on this. It just changes the sight picture for me and works better for me. Alright, so this is the AR-15, okay, and I'm going to leave it here on bench and let you take a look at its big brother. Okay, this is Big Brother. Okay, now Big Brother is, as you can see, just plain bigger everywhere, okay? It has some very similar features. It breaks down in the same way. It comes apart pretty much in the same way. But this guy is chambered in the .308 Winchester cartridge. This thing has a much longer effective range than the AR-15. This AR-10, okay, is a flat top type receiver, okay? So this one's pretty comfortable for me because of the way the buttstock is designed. It shoots pretty darn well. In Afghanistan, now, I was not there, so what I'm going off of are reports from guys that were there. They say that the enemy would get back past 500 yards away, and they were shooting guns that were comparable in power to the .308. Okay, they had pretty good range on them, and they would shoot at us. The problem is, past 500 yards, this little 5.56 cartridge loses lethality. In other words, it's not a sure thing that you're going to take them down if they're out past 500 yards. You might, but it's not absolute locked in stone, okay? This guy at 500 yards, trust me, they're going down. This is the AR-15. This does not have the flat top receiver on it that's very favored nowadays. This is the old style, like the old AR-15s and M16s. It's just a different upper on this thing. Now, what do we mean by upper? Okay, what we mean is upper receiver. Okay, what is the difference between an upper and a lower receiver? All right, the lower has the trigger mechanism in it, the lock for the bolt. It has the safety in it. Okay, it has the buffer spring that's back inside the stock here. All right. The upper has the barrel. Okay, it has again this handle. It has the bolt carrier and bolt in it, and it has the charging lever in it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and open this thing up and do some cleaning on it. All right. Now, on this particular gun, I spent some extra money and I put in a very, very good trigger system, okay? This is not your normal trigger system. It looks the same. You can't really tell the trigger system apart by looking at it from the outside, but it has different springs in it, and so it makes the trigger much lighter to pull. Now, if you decide that you want to modify your trigger system and put a different trigger in there, that's fine, that's up to you. But be aware that it increases the level of responsibility on you, okay? Keep your finger off that trigger at all times until you are ready to discharge the weapon. I cannot repeat that enough times. Keep your finger off the trigger, keep your finger off the trigger. Okay, so our 3 NRA safety rules. They're very simple. We only have 3 because we want you to be able to remember them. All right, rule number 1, okay, always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction. What is a safe direction? Well, that's any direction where if it should inexplicably go off, nobody's going to get hit. Okay, now you have to remember that includes not only the foreground of what you can see, but what's on beyond what you can see. Okay, in other words, will that bullet go through a shrub? Oh, of course it'll go through a shrub. Is there anybody on the other side of that shrub? If we can't tell, then that's not a safe direction. Okay, so be aware of both foreground and background. All right, always be aware of your surroundings. Number 2, always keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Well, that's pretty darn self-explanatory. It's almost an instinct for people to, when they pick up the gun, that trigger finger automatically tends to go into that trigger guard, okay? Well, for me, because I've been trained at this for years and years and years and years, my instinct is to extend my index finger up here along the top so it's not in the trigger. This is an instinct that you can and definitely should develop within yourself, okay? Just practice it all the time. Whenever you pick it up, keep your finger off that trigger. If you notice yourself making that mistake, stop, take your finger out, and don't do it, okay? So, rule 3, always keep the gun unloaded until you're ready to use it, okay? If we look, okay, we don't have a magazine in it, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee that this gun is empty. If you notice, I've got this dust cover closed. Well, what if I have a round in that chamber and I go messing around and pull that trigger? I could shoot a hole in the wall or possibly somebody. So, what we're going to do now is when we pull the charging lever back, this door is going to automatically pop open, okay? We're going to be able to pull this back and literally look into the chamber. I mean physically look right down in there and make sure that there is no round stuck in that chamber, okay? And that is very, very important to do that. Now, review of the controls, okay? Well, we know where the safety is. It's here, okay? What is this big thing here? Well, this is an add-on that I had. This is your slide lock, slide release, okay? So we pull the bolt back and we can simply hit that lock, okay? And then the bolt locks open, okay? As you can see, it's now locked open, all right? I don't have to hold it. So once that happens, you're good, okay? So I'm going to release the bolt and let it go back forward. Okay, over here on this side, this button is the magazine ejector. Okay, you push that in and the magazine will drop right out. Okay. All right, now there's a button on this thing right here. Okay. A lot of people look at it and go, what the heck is that? Well, this is called a forward assist. Now, you lock this open again. You can't see it. Okay. Okay. On the side of the bolt, all right, I'm going to see if I can show this to you. There are these little teeth down here. I don't know if you can see them, okay? They run all the way down the bolt every so often. If the bolt isn't all the way up, you can press this and it will assist the bolt going forward until it closes all the way, okay? That's called a forward assist, because sometimes these things will get dirty or whatever. Cartridge jams up a little bit and it won't go all the way closed. So you can press that and it'll close it the rest of the way. I'll help you close it, okay? That's called the forward assist button. So, in order to disassemble this, just like what we did on the AR-10 the other day, we're going to do the same thing with this one. This pin right here, we're going to push it out, okay? First I'm going to put something on it because it's a little stiff and just get it to pop that little bit, Okay, then I'm going to push it through, and that pin won't just drop out of the receiver all the way. It stays like this, just locked in. Okay, from there we can just kind of scissor the gun open like that. Okay, piece of cake. Now we've got it open. Okay, now once this comes open, okay, let's see if I can show you this part. This piston right here, this is your buffer. This is a spring and a piston. The bolt will come back, okay, and as it comes back, okay, it presses against that piston and pushes it in. So once this is scissored open, there's no pressure on the bolt. The bolt will come right out of the gun. So how do we get it out? We hit this little trigger that's right here on this side, and we simply pull it straight back, okay? Now, once it comes all the way back, we can now grab the bolt and continue it the rest of the way back, and it comes right out of the gun. In order to get the charging lever out, okay, we simply pull it down. Now, I'm going to do that again because I think I fell out of camera frame, and I want to make sure you can see what I did. All right, so get in there, you. Okay, if you don't have the bolt in the right position, you can fight this thing all day and you won't get that bolt back in the gun. So if it's fighting you like it was just fighting me now, that's what's generally speaking wrong. All right, so when the bolt's locked like that, okay, we're going to pull the trigger, slide it back. Once the charging handle is all the way back, then we grab the bolt and we finish pulling it out. Once the bolt is out, okay, we can pull straight down on that charging lever and it'll come out. Now that's got the receiver cleared out, ready to be cleaned. Now, I shot this thing a lot the other day. I put a lot of rounds through it. And as a result, it's pretty darn dirty. So, we're going to get started on cleaning this puppy up, because it does need it. All right, now, I'm going to wet a patch with our bore cleaner, which I know you've seen me do that 1,000 times before on every other video, but still has to be done. So wet your patch, okay, and let's get started on cleaning. Now this charging lever has got a lot of mud in it. I think you're going to be impressed at how much comes out of here. So this is where one of these cleaning brushes with these narrow bristles on one end, wide bristles on the other end, this is where this narrow end is going to come in really handy, because we can use this as an implement to get down in that trough and get that thing cleaned out. All right, now there is a hole in the front of this charging lever that goes all the way through. It is necessary for that to stay clean. Okay, so we are going to use the other side of our patch, and I'm just going to take this little screwdriver and kind of push it through that hole and twist it around, all right? And that's going to clean everything out in that hole, all right? So once we've got that all done, and as you can see, there was a lot of mud in that charging handle. Now remember, I put like 500 rounds through this thing the other day, so it's dirty. And you have to expect that, because that's just the nature of shooting. You're going to have to clean it, and you know you're going to have to clean it, so you pay your price. All right, so that's got this charging lever a little cleaner. Now I'm going to use a rag to dry it all off, okay? Because once you get this burnt powder residue wet with the patch, okay, all that stuff is suspended in that liquid. It's still, a lot of it still on the handle, okay? So you want to now get it all cleaned off. As you can see, it's coming right out on that rag right there. So that's what we're doing. All right, now I'm going to raise this, because for some reason that camera kind of looks dark to me. Don't know exactly why, but it just does. All right, so now we're going to do the same thing about using our little brush to get in here and dry this out. All right, so once you get it cleaned up and dried out, okay, we should be ready to go. And again, we're just using the same technique over and over again. I'm going to put our screwdriver in here, push it through, and just kind of twist it around. All right, and that should get us cleaned up pretty well. All right, so that's our charging handle cleaned up. Now we have to clean up our bolt. And again, we're going to wet a patch and start getting the deposits wet on the bolt so that we can then clean it all off. All right, now there's a lot on this bolt. I mean, just ridiculous amounts, okay? So we got to do a bit of work on this one to get it cleaned up. Now, this little spout sticking up here, this is where your gas piston comes through this thing to operate the gas system. So this does need to be kept clean. This is one of the areas that's going to get dirty. So you're going to want to do your due diligence on that and keep it clean. Now, if you decide to use an implement like a screwdriver, make sure you don't bear down on it, because if you do, you can scratch the metal, all right? Screwdriver tips are very, very hard as well, so you just kind of want to get it clean, not mar the whole thing up. All right, now, this bolt moves inside this bolt carrier. Now, this big piece here is called the bolt carrier. This is the actual bolt, and as you can see, it moves. All right, so we can move it to the side, and that will help us to get a lot of the mud out of there. All right, so this gun needs to be maintained, so you got to go through all these steps. Now, here's the cool thing about this. You can go through this and redo it as many times as you feel you need to on this process. It's the same with cleaning the barrel. You can wet the barrel, brush the barrel, go through and clean everything up, and you can do it as many times as you actually need to. So we are going to do this probably a couple of times because it's so darn dirty. I think what happened here is I used some cheap ammunition, and it just burned very dirty with a lot of sludge in it. So there's a lot to clean up here. Almost embarrassed it's so dirty. But that's the beauty of cleaning. We can fix that. A friend of mine used to tell this joke to me all the time. He was just kidding around, unless you agree with him. He used to say that pretty goes away with years, but ugly is incurable. And he always would point out, and you're ugly. And he'd just give me that all the time. But okay, now if I was working on the AR-10, which we featured on another video, okay, that AR-10 bolt and bolt carrier is about 3 times the size of this one. I mean, it's much, much bigger, much, much heavier. These little teeth that are on the bolt face can be a little bit tough to get into to clean them. All right, so once you've got them wet like this, okay, you really probably should use a cleaning brush on this. If you don't have a cleaning brush, an old toothbrush will do. Remember, don't try to use that toothbrush after it's been in that cleaning solvent, because that cannot be good for you. That would really ruin your day, I'm afraid. Alright, so okay, well, it looks like everything's broken loose on here. Once you get all of the garbage in here to where it's completely loose and suspended in your bore cleaner, then you can take your rag and dry all of this off from the outside, okay? Okay, once you've got your bolt all cleaned up and oiled and your charging lever oiled, we can move on to cleaning the barrel. All right, and all right, there we go. So we got oil in it and we don't have a sloppy mess, so we're good to go on that. I'm just going to set this out of the way over here. And we're going to now get down inside the receiver, okay, right down in here, and we're going to clean up everything we can in here. Pardon me. After we do that, I'm going to show you a special brush that is designed for cleaning the chamber on this gun. Okay, now it is a special brush. It is a little different than the kind of brushes you may be used to seeing. Okay, this is a chamber brush. Okay, it's for 5.56. Okay, and it has, as you can see, this enlarged area back here that's designed for cleaning the lugs that are inside this chamber edge, where the bolt goes in and twists to lock. Okay. Pardon me. Wow. All right, so we're going to get our bore cleaner again, and we're going to wet up a couple of patches. We're going to clean the inside of this receiver up. This gun was definitely excessively dirty. Unfortunately, that's going to happen when you're firing cheap ammunition. None of us can afford to go out and burn millions and millions of rounds every time we go out on the field, but it does add up after a while. But whenever you use that cheap ammunition, you're not going to get as clean a burn out of it, and you're going to start getting a lot of mud out of the inside of your gun when you're cleaning it. It's a normal thing. You know it's going to happen. You don't have to like it, but you got to deal with it. So you're just going to have to get in there and do your job and get everything as clean as you can. There just isn't much of a choice in the matter. So that's what we're doing here. We're cleaning up what we can. Now, these cleaning brushes that have the small bristles on one end and the large bristles on the other, they come in really handy for doing this kind of work, because you can kind of grip that patch and work it back and forth into places that you can't physically stick your hand in there and clean. So this is going to come in really handy at times. Sometimes there's just no substitute for an implement, you know. So, and once these bristles get into that patch, they hold it pretty good. Well, as you can see, there was a lot of filth inside that receiver, so it was important to do this. From here, I'm going to take my rag again, and I'm going to use that to dry up, because I've got so much territory to cover. I'd be there kind of all day working with the patch, so I'm going to try and do this a little easier. All right, get as much out of here as we possibly can. All right, so, all right, we got a good bit out. You can see that rag is now pretty filthy, so I'm going to be replacing that one. All right, now on to the chamber. All right, when we clean up this chamber, all right, this is the brush that we're going to use. Now, since it's not a long distance to here, I'm going to use my pistol cleaning brush to do the job. Okay, so I'm going to get a brush handle out of here, okay, and I'm going to put this in, and I'm going to use that to clean my chamber. All right, we're going to stick that dude up in there. Okay, I'm going to pull it back out, and it's stuck. It's stuck. All right, yeah, it is the right size, but it's not cooperating with me very well. Okay. Now, if you look on those bristles, there's a tremendous amount of crap on them, so it did do a good job. All right. Now, I'm going to have to probably wash this brush in solvent to try and clean it up a little bit because there's so much garbage on it. Okay, so looks like my assistant gunsmith is showing up to the party. Hello, Scamp. What's up? What's up, cat boy? What are you doing? What's that tail all about? Give me that tail. What? I know. You want to tell everybody all about it? He is a talkative one. Yes, I know, but I got stuff all over my hands, buddy. I can't really pet you because I'm kind of filthy. Okay, yeah, here he is. Assistant Gunsmith Scamp. Say hello to everybody. Wow. I know it. That was me. Yeah, I know that was me. But this is my pal. This is my buddy. He helps me with everything. He's a maniac, but he's my maniac. Okay, there we go. That's my good boy. All right. So, I guess he's going to let me get back to work now. Yeah, it's a funny thing. We sometimes think we own cats, but it's more like the other way around. They kind of own us. If you're a cat owner, you know exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so from here, we're going to clean the bore. And in order to do that, we're going to need a rod that's long enough to go all the way through the barrel. And this one is definitely long enough. So, let me flop this thing around the other way, and we'll run a few patches through this barrel and clean it up. So, now remember, this is a 22 caliber bore, so you're not going to be able to use these larger 30 caliber brushes or patches on it. It isn't going to go through the bore that way. So you're going to need these itty bitty 22 caliber patches. They're very small, but there just isn't really a choice. You have to use them on this barrel because, and I'll show you this in a second, I'm going to wet this patch and mount it, and then I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Alright, patch is wet, very wet, and I'm going to mount it on here. Get on there, you. Okay, now, here's why you don't have a choice, okay? This jag, okay, this is another 22 caliber jag, all right? This jag is smaller in diameter here than it is right here on this collar where it mounts up against the rod. This is the same size as the rod, which just barely clears a 22 caliber barrel. So if you're using a full-size patch, what happens is it will wrap down over the top of that thick collar, okay? And you won't be able to get it through the barrel. It just won't go. This is too thick, all right? So jags are designed so that they have enough clearance for the patch. So we're going to take that dude and we're going to stick him up in there. And once it gets started, pardon me, once it gets started, it'll go right through that barrel, okay? And we're going to run it through a couple of times. We're going to turn it inside out, run it through a second time to make sure we've got that cleaning material spread over the entire length of the barrel, okay? So in we go, and it goes right through. All right, so once we've got our patch through, and we know we've got plenty of material in there, from here we're going to get our 22 cleaning brush, and we're going to remove our jag and put our brush on. Now I want to share this with you about brushes, okay? Don't push the brush into the barrel, get it part way through, and then pull it back out, because that will kink these bristles and shrink the diameter of this brush and make it too small to do its job. So when you push it through, make sure that you go from the back all the way, okay, until you come out the other end of the barrel, like that, okay? Then pull it back out of the barrel, okay? But make sure you go all the way through and out and all the way back and out. and go back and forth a few times. And that's going to clean your barrel up. Okay? Now, once you've got your barrel brushed, that's going to break loose all of those deposits, and they're now going to be suspended in the cleaning solvent. Okay? So, in other words, floating in it. So we want to get all that out of there. Now remember, you're going to have little copper jacket shavings, you're going to have lead, you're going to have burnt powder, you're going to have just a variety of different things that are up inside that bore, and now are floating in that bore cleaner. So we're going to take a clean patch and we're going to mount that on our stick here, and we're going to push that up through our barrel, okay, and dry out all that garbage that we just broke loose and is now floating in our barrel. Okay, now when I show you this patch, you're going to see what I mean. Okay, oh, there's actually a piece of copper right here. Now this is possible that's a bristle out of the brush, but it's also possible that it's a copper jacket off of a bullet, because I see a lot of stuff in here that's kind of sparkling. I suspect it's probably bullet, but it's hard to tell. Alright, so we're going to do another patch, and we're going to do the same thing over again. Now, you can put solvent in the barrel, okay, and then brush the barrel as many times as you feel you need to get it as clean as you want it. Alright? You don't have to just do this one time. You can do it more than once. It won't hurt a thing. Alright? So, you don't have to be shy. Alright? You just got to get it clean. So I'm going to turn this one inside out and go one more time through. These patches are so small, they don't pick up a lot of material, so you kind of got to take that into consideration. All right, so I think we've got all out what we're going to need to get out. But just to be sure, I'm going to show you a little trick. We're going to take a patch, a full-size one like this, and we're going to take and put it inside our receiver. I'll try to get this around where you can see it. Okay. Okay, we're going to try and take this at kind of an angle, all right, kind of like that, all right. And by doing that, we can then hold that under the light, okay, and look through the barrel, and it's going to kind of reflect light up into the barrel and allow us to see that we have a nice clean barrel, okay. So that's just a trick. You can use that little patch kind of as a mirror. With this thing, you can just hold it up to the light and look through it, but these lights are so bright I end up with blue spots in my vision, so it's easier to reflect it with this, at least easier on my eyes anyway. Alright, so from here, we're going to make sure that we've got everything cleaned up in the lower, okay? If there's anything floating around in there, we want to get it out. So we're going to turn it over and take a look. And it's not too bad, actually. Alrighty. Okay, there we go. Now, place that gets missed a lot, alright, I'm going to show you, is down inside the magazine well. That's in here. This gets missed a lot, and it gets dirty in there. It really does. So make sure that you clean this up as well. It just makes the weapon muddy if you don't. So get in there and clean up everything you possibly can. Alright, so once we've got it cleaned up to that point, we can start reassembling. Alright, so the first thing we have to do is put our charging lever back in. Now, anywhere where you see aluminum shiny like that, like it's on the tip of this, you're going to want to drop oil, because that means it's rubbing against the steel that's inside that receiver. All right, and that is wearing out when it does it. It's wearing, okay? So if you go in too far with this thing, it won't pop up into the receiver. All right, so you put it in and draw it back slowly, kind of while holding it up, and you'll feel when it pops in. Rust like that. It just dropped right into place, okay? Now, the next thing we do is we take the gas tube here on the top of the bolt and we slip that up inside that channel, okay, that's inside that charging lever, all right? And then we slide the whole bolt back into place. Now, once you get it all the way back in, you can push it up and you'll hear that lock, okay? You'll hear it lock into place. Push it all the way up. Now, you have to get it all the way up and locked into place. If you don't, the back end of the bolt here won't clear the piston for the buffer that we talked about earlier. So you got to make sure it's all the way up, okay? Then you can simply close it down, push the pin through, and you're back together, okay? Do a little function test, make sure everything's working the way you want, okay? And everything. That's about all there is to it. Close your dust cover up, keep the dust out of it, and you're ready to go. That's your AR-15. Hey everybody, Bill 1911 here. If you found this video to be helpful and informative, don't forget to like us, and please subscribe, and by all means come to visit us at askbill1911.com. Also, I want to talk to you about something that's very important to us, and that's your safety. So please, don't try any of the things you see on our videos until you have thoroughly reviewed and understood our safety procedures. If you're under 18 years of age, do not try any of these topics without the express permission of your parent or guardian. Thank you.